What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Leader You're Becoming podcast. I am your host, Coach T, and I am excited to be back with you. We are on episode number 5, y'all. Number 5. If I had some, if I was in the studio to be like, well, I am excited for us to be back, and I'm even more excited about the topic we're going to talk about today because it is needed in the environment in which we live in today. And so, without further ado, again, this podcast is about leadership, stewardship from a leadership standpoint, and how ultimately to create a work environment that your people love to go to every day, and they don't hate it, and they don't hate their life every time they're ready to go to work. It's possible. It's very, very difficult. And also, as leaders, I would be negligent to say you might not please everybody. But if you can get the right people, enough of the right people in the right seats in that business, it will be a work environment that most of the people, if not all the people, if you can do it, it's not totally impossible. Everybody loves to go to work every day, and they don't have to hate their job, which is what you see out here on social media so much. People hate their 9 to 5. They can't stand it. But that don't have to be your location. That don't have to be your company, right? That doesn't have to be your department if you're just a department manager, right? And so with that being said, let's get into it. So what are we talking about today? We are talking about how to create urgency without creating chaos. I'll say it again. Creating urgency without creating chaos. Now, this topic right here is so important, especially in the landscape of today and where I believe the landscape of business is continuing to move as it relates to private equity, right? I did some research, and roughly about in 2010, roughly about 1% of businesses were owned or backed, if you will, by private equity. Today, that's roughly 3%. Now, that seems like a very small number, but if you look at the magnitude of small businesses, that is a significant amount of businesses that are now private equity backed. And this doesn't have to just relate to private equity backed. This can relate to VC backed. This can relate to, some smaller family offices or investors. There's so many people in the world right now, way more, that are like, I have some money and I see business as an asset class that is producing outcomes, returns, right? Return on investment better than the stock market, better than real estate, better than, some commodities, etc., right? Better than crypto, if you will. And so they're looking at business as an opportunity to be able to have a better return on investment. That's really all we're talking about. And so you see a ton of money, billions of dollars, if not trillions of dollars, pouring into this environment. Now, why is that so important? Because I believe it's what's happening is creating actually a perfect storm, if you will. You have private equity, right, buying businesses that have to grow their returns on investment. Grow the returns on investment. You have angel investors. You have family offices. You have all of these folks that are putting this money into the pot. They want a good return on investment of that money, right? And good, we could probably say great return on investment, right? Because they can take their money and put it in the stock market, as I said, real estate or precious metals or whatnot. And so with that being said, there is a natural pressure of performance that you see within the marketplace that's not normal. And I want to say normal. It's not like it was, if you will, generally speaking. And so what happens is you have that happening. Then you have a climate of uncertainty, right? I learned about a phrase not too long ago called VUCA. And I had it here, I do my notes, y'all. VUCA, it's VUCA, was a term which stood for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, right? So that volatility is fast changing. Things are changing fast. You have uncertainty, unpredictable outcomes, right? Complexity, many moving parts. And then you have ambiguity, unclear cause and effect. And so we had this environment where things are volatile, uncertain, complex, and a lot of ambiguity. But the problem is, and I want to say a problem. It is a problem. It's an opportunity and a problem. It's a problem that creates an opportunity. I'll say it that way for great leaders. The problem is that's not where we are anymore. We have actually moved to what they call BANI. Yeah, I know this is real. You can look this up. It's BANI, BANI, which means B stands for brittle, A stands for anxious, N stands for nonlinear, and I stands for incomprehensible. So that's brittle. What does that mean? Systems look strong, but they break suddenly. Anxious, constant background stress, right? Non-linear, which means you can have a small input, but then it has a massive consequence. Whew. Incomprehensible. Logic doesn't always explain the outcomes. So now we've went from this like uncertain environment, right? This complex environment. We went to this incomprehensible environment, right? Where, oh, we made this small mistake, but the outcomes and consequences is dramatic. You have this like logic. It's like, okay, 1 + 1 = 2, where now 1 + 1 = 50. And you're like, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make logical sense. But that's the environment where we're anxious now, right? There's a good book out called The Anxious Generation. There's a lot of anxiety about what's going on, like what's going to happen. Like there's a level of like insecurity, if you will, that's out there in the workplace, in the market right now. That's being pushed by global conflict. That's being pushed by inflation. A lot of wage pressure. You have supply chain issues, and then let's not even talk about, but we're going to talk about AI just totally reshaping the workforce, right? So you went from this VUCA, just complex, if you just worked hard enough, you can kind of figure it out environment, to now you're in this BANI environment where it's not just enough to work harder. You actually have to like navigate this pressure more systematically and more thoughtful than you had to do even before. We can just work harder. And that's something as leaders, understanding you have this really anxious, incomprehensible like environment, and then you marry that up with pressure, right? Like we've never seen, before in some areas, in some industries, of like performance from the company, being able to produce a particular outcome, right, from a profit standpoint or a margin standpoint, and also includes a client experience standpoint. How can we make the product better? And sometimes, how can we make the product better and cheaper? And in some environments, how can we make the product better and charge more, right? How do we just make it better and charge more for it, right? Which puts more pressure on it. How do we now say, okay, I have AI coming in. Where do I use AI to potentially like move resources to AI? And then now I'm going to be bringing in different humans, right? Or the same humans. I need to upscale them, or I need to bring in different humans. So as a leader navigating all this, you really have to understand that the amount of pressure on you right now is astronomical. Now, I won't say any more than any other time in history, because I didn't live during any other time in history. So I can't tell you from personal experience, and everybody's experience is either more than or less than what reality is. But I can tell you right now, the experience that we are having today, the amount of pressure that is here, and the level of urgency that is needed to produce as a leader, from what your teams demand of you, from what your bosses demand of you, maybe your boss's boss or the parenting company is required of you, or what the stock market, if you're in a publicly traded company, is demanding of you, or in the startup, you're a part of this new startup is demanding of you. It is off the charts. And your job as a leader to be calm, cool, collected, and strategic is absolutely pivotal for you to have success. And so I actually want to talk about that today, right? And I just want to make sure that we all understand that, like, urgency does not mean panic. Excuse me. I feel like I'm about to sneeze. Whew. I feel like it's about to happen. If it does, it is what it is. And I'm not cutting it out, because we talk about this. This is a real authentic, true leadership. The leader you're becoming, it's authentic. So with that being said, urgency it should not equate to panic. urgency should translate to clearer expectations, clearer priorities, and clearer consequences. I'll say that again. Urgency does not equate to panic for good leaders. Urgency translates to clear expectations, clear priorities, and clear consequences. Right? And so, with that being said, we talk about creating urgency, right? In our business, particularly a lot. And one thing that I will say is that the best leaders are not afraid to create a level of urgency or raise the standard for their top people. They're just not afraid of it. And what does that look like? A players, if you will, your top people, we call them A players, and you hear that in the marketplace now a lot, A players. A players are not afraid of higher expectations, y'all. They're not. What they don't prefer is the goalpost moves and nobody told them. I'll say it again. A players are not afraid of higher expectations. They actually thrive for it. They will actually become bored if you don't give it to them. But what A players do not, they have a distaste for is the goalposts, the standards raised, goalpost moves, and nobody said anything to them. Right? And now they're being held accountable without any clear communication, expectations, additional training, and or resources if necessary. And now they're facing consequences that they didn't even know existed before. And so if anybody is out there and they're worried and they're a leader and they're like, man, I got all this pressure coming from my boss or all this pressure coming from the market or my stakeholders or whatever that might be, and you're afraid of saying, I'm going to have to ask more of my team, and I've already been asking a bunch of them, I promise you the A players don't have a problem with it. As long as you're clear, as long as you level set with them, as long as you make sure they're trained, developed, right? And they have the resources available, they will actually thank you. You know that's true, right? You will have people that thank you for more work, more responsibility. Right? And some of the best players may not even say, I don't even want a bunch of money for it. Right? It may not always translate. There are times where you're going to have to pay and do different things of that nature. But there's times where they're just like, no. Right? And oftentimes some of our A players are actually on comp plans that reward their performance anyway. So, and if you don't have those type of plans, even for like some positions where it's like hard to quantify, figure out a way to put some performance to it. I promise you the A players will love it because they can control their own destiny as long as they have the resources and the right direction to go. So I will say that. And so, and that's just understanding just honestly how things work. And so somebody might be saying right now, well, I don't know if that's true, right? I don't know if, you can just change the environment or just keep raising the standards, right? I will say for a C player, that's true. I agree. If you say it to a C player, right, and that what do I define as C player? Somebody that's just trying to we used to say, I used to hear people say all the time, I'm trying to go to work and not work that hard. Right? I'm trying to get paid for doing as little work as possible, and I'm trying to get paid the most amount of money. Yes, they are going to have issues. They're going to have a lot of issues with the pressure, right? B players, I would say they will understand it. Might be hard. They might be afraid. A players are like, bring it on. Bring it on. And it's no different than you may have, for example, a quarterback, right? Quarterback starts off in middle school. He's doing a great job. He goes to a great prep high school or a good high school in the area, right? And he goes to that high school. Well, from middle school football to high school football is totally different. Right? And now he's high school, All-American, 5-star blue chip recruit, goes to college. Well, guess what? It's still football. At the end of the day, they're still running and passing and blocking and tackling. Last time I checked, right? In college. Now, the pressure has mounted, right? Now you're on national televised games. There's bigger trophies. There's more money attached to it, especially now in college football. You have all these things, but at the end of the day, it's still football. And then let's do that one more step to the NFL. Now we talk about, hold up, we're in the NFL. You talk about pressure. You have massive, massive scrutiny. You have billions of dollars, legitimately billions of dollars on the line for the performance of said player. billions. The pressure, their legacy, their name, everything else they did in the past matters nothing if they go out there and wet the bed on that football field, especially as a quarterback. Same football, same plays, same blocking, same tackling, same, all these things are still the same, but the pressure has mounted and changed. And you can see for the, Joe Montanas of the world, the Tom Brady's of the world, I'm trying to think of another, Patrick Mahomes of the world, some of the greatest quarterbacks, right, that we've ever seen. Guess what? They took the pressure and kept getting better along the way. They were just clear about their expectations, clear about the work that needs to be done, clear with the training, the nutrition, and all those things, and they lived up to the moment. Your A players will thrive in this pressure. And the reason why I'm bringing this up and I'm talking about it is because as a leader, your number one asset as a leader, it's not your AI, it's not your patent on the product, it's not, it's not your company brand. All those things are important, don't get me wrong. Not your marketing, it's your people, right? And the leader we're becoming has to understand that the environment you're in as a leader, if it hasn't gotten to you yet, it's coming. That expectation is going to keep rising. And you're the leader, so you are responsible for it. Hey, you won a Super Bowl, win another one. Come on now. Oh, win another one. Can you become a dynasty? Now it goes from, oh, you won a Super Bowl. Oh, you didn't win as many as Andy Reid. Oh, okay, you didn't win as many as Bill Belichick. And it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And that's what we chose. That's what we chose as leaders. I just want y'all to know. That's what we chose. And that's okay. But understand that if that's the case, how you feed that pressure down to your team is going to be vital. How you feed that pressure down. If you do what poor leaders do, right, you're going to have a problem. And you're going to have a really big problem. And so one of the things that I like to do is I actually like to think through what that looks like, right? Like, how do I take this pressure that's coming down to me and not pass it down and create chaos for my team? And I have a simple framework that I like to use, essentially to kind of work through this. I don't have a name for it, but it's just like kind of my framework for how can I operate in this banny environment, right? Or how have I been operating? What's been successful? It's in this. Number one, I look at where we are now. Like, that's number one. I look at where are we now. So this is an honest assessment, no sugarcoating. Where are we now? What is the truth of this moment? I want all the data. I want all the clarity. I want everything. The good, the bad, the ugly. And I want the stuff that you put under the rug that you never wanted to say to me. I want all of it. Where are we now? If you do not have a clear, unbiased, clear picture of where you are now, you cannot create peace, if you will, and clarity for your team. You will create chaos. If you try to just go with a piece of the data and you bring that to the team, then guess what? They're going to, if whether they say it or not, in the back of their mind, they're going to be like, yeah, but he ain't talked about that. She ain't brought that situation up. I know that situation over there is a problem. I know it is. And they not going to bring it up. And some people don't have the courage to say something to you. So it is your job as a leader to go get all the information and have a relationship with your people where they're comfortable enough to bring it up. Amen. If we was in church, right? So that's number one. Where are we? Then you got to look at, hey, what's changed? All right. We were here and everything was going well. The environment changed. Or now, okay, what changed in the environment? Right? We were here, everything's well, we're in alignment, and now we're over here. How did we get here? What changed? Was it the economy? Like, literally, was it the economy, or are we just saying that? Right? Like, was it the economy? Did our clientele, did our clients' preference change? Is there a new competitor in the market? Do our product not have the barrier, right? Like, anymore, right? The moat, excuse me. Does our product not have the moat anymore? Have we gotten lazy? Like, let's keep it real. Sometimes the issues in our business was nothing external. It was actually this us. We got complacent. We got complacent with the sales activity that we did. We got complacent with our marketing. We got complacent with how we did our one-on-ones and how we did our team meetings. We got complacent with how we paid people or how we thought about things, how innovative we are. We just got complacent. What changed? This is why it's so important to start with where are we now and then look at what's changed. Number 3, where's the gap? Right? So we went from here, everything is well, in alignment, we're doing well. Then we get to here. Okay, well, there's a gap here, right? There's a gap. What is that gap? Where is where we need to be and where we are? And in this gap right here, I call that the problem or the problems. Now we need to figure out what problems are in this gap. What caused this? And maybe it's something that you didn't even do. The environment changed. A presidential, figure said there's going to be a tariff. Whatever, right? It doesn't matter. It really, honestly, it really doesn't matter. There's a gap now. And what are the problems in this gap? Are these real problems? Right? If they're real problems, we solve them. Right? If they're just kind of like we got to muscle through some of this stuff, we just muscle through it. But if there's real problems here, how do we get through these problems? What are some of the solutions that we can have for said problems? Now, those problems could be skills, systems, structures, people, processes, etc. Then we figure out, okay, how do we solve them? Now, the most important part about the solve is you can't solve everything at once. You cannot solve everything at once. This is where you really got to get really clear on, I got 5 problems. What is the priority problem? What is the number one problem I can deal with, right? As a leader or as a leadership team. What's the number one? Who owns this problem? This might be in the sales department, right? So my director of sales, that's their problem. That's our problem, but it's their problem to be accountable for that problem, right? And then what are the timelines? This is so key. Oftentimes we'll figure out what the problem is. We'll figure out who's responsible or accountable, for that problem. But we won't actually set a time frame for when we want that problem solved. Right? Or what are the checkpoints as we're solving through that problem? And this one, I will say, is one of the things that has held me up, in my personal time when I felt like I could have grown faster in roles is I would figure out the problem. I would figure out who's accountable for the problem, right? But I wouldn't put a good, clean on the time frame of when we want to solve that problem. And so that's just a vulnerable moment of like, throughout my career, this was like one of those things where I looked back on, I was like, oh, that's what it was. Man, I never set the clear expectation of time. Okay, we got this problem with this person. What are we doing by when? We got this problem with this system this process. What are we going to be doing by this day? And just being definite. And this is one of those moments where I will tell leaders, you don't have to take the person that's accountable for it to set the timeline, right? If there is somebody else responsible or accountable, right? Like you don't have to wait for them. You can say, I want this done in a week. And you'd be surprised. Somebody's, oh, it can't happen. Okay, well, how could it happen? Like, what would it take to get this done in a week? Just using that for an example. What would it take? Right? Now, by doing so, you got to rip off all the fluff, all the other, I got to stop doing this. Okay, stop doing that. Oh, I got to stop doing, get rid of that. Maybe we don't do this. Do we need to do that? Is that the most important thing right now? Or can that be something that happens after this other thing that we're solving for now? Because we're off track, right? We got some problems. We got a gap here, right? Things have changed. And you'd be shocked. You'd be shocked if you just hold your ground, right, on this is the timeline. And oftentimes people will rise to it, or you'll get to it, and then they'll say, hey, that wasn't possible. Okay, cool. Now, the fact that we tried to do it this fast, with this speed, right? Not chaos, but speed, because we got clear priorities. We understand the problem. We understand who's accountable. And we understand the solutions that need to happen because we understand the problems. You will be further along than if you said, oh, I need 3 weeks. No, we did it in a week. And guess what? You might actually get it done in a day. And now, something that would have been lingering for 3 weeks problem is solved in a day, or in this case, a week, right? And as a leader, you got to be willing to go and push. You got to be willing to create that urgency. But that urgency, I'm going to keep saying it, comes with clarity. Clear expectations, clear consequences, clear timelines, clear solutions, right? Clear solutions, even though that solution might not work. All right, it was clear. We got it through. It didn't work. Throw it out. Do it again. Come on, throw it away. Let's try it again. And so this is something that we have to just truly understand as a leader, that we are in a banny environment. We are in that environment, right? And again, because it's a new one for me, I'm still learning. I'm still hooked on VUCA. It's brittle. Systems look strong and break suddenly. It's anxious, constant background stress. It's non-linear. Small inputs create massive consequences, and incomprehensible. Logic doesn't always explain the outcomes, right? And so I'll leave you with this. Your job, actually I'll say a couple things, 3 things. 1, calm as a leader is actually now a competitive advantage. Being able to take pressure and produce clarity in a calm manner. Not taking an email from your boss and forwarding to your team like, see, I told you. Like, I've done that before. Years ago. And I remember I was showing the clear. I was being clear. I was being transparent. Hey, I got this like chaos email from my boss, and I took it, and I was like, hey guys, and I added my chaos to it, like boom. And I never got really what I wanted. I never got it. But then when I started taking a moment to take the chaos email from my boss, and some of our bosses, it's the reality of it, they're still working on stuff too, right? They sent the chaos email. I took it and said, okay, what's the real problem here? Why is this a problem? Understand the context of it, right? Understanding all the data that's available. Understanding like what direction we're trying to go. Understanding what has changed, what the expectations are now, went from the college to the NFL. And then looked at the real problems and said, okay, well, either I have solutions that I'm supposed to present to my team and direct them and say, this is how we're going to go and this is what we're going to do. Or, okay, who do I need to get with to help and become resourceful? Who do I need to get with to solve some problems? These problems that I believe they are, or I don't even know what the problems are. I really don't understand them. Who do I need to go get some more information from? And that ability to be able to take a moment, process it, and produce clarity when you receive pressure, that calm is a competitive advantage. Your people will never tell you. Well, I won't say that. A lot of your people won't tell you that they appreciate your calm, but I promise you, when they're in the storm, they come out, their eyes will tell you, because something will happen, they'll look to you. And they won't look to you like, what you about to do? What you about to do? Let me see how you about to handle this situation, right? It'll be, I know you got me kind of look. Hopefully that was good. If that was good, my acting's getting better. No, I'm joking. Right? But again, so that's number 1. Number 2, your job is not to make people feel pressure. Your job is to make pressure productive. That pretty much summarizes it all, right? Your job is not to make people feel pressure. Your job is to make pressure productive. And I understand that there's this like, we want them to feel pressure. Okay, I get what you're saying. I really do. But really, what are you trying to say? You're saying you want them to feel pressure because you want them to be more productive. And I understand by the research that I've done on the brain, if people don't feel safe, their brain and they're under stress, their IQ lowers. Like that's what the doctors tell me. I'm not a doctor. But if people are under high levels of stress, their IQ lowers. And if I'm trying to solve a problem, I want them feeling free, creative, and their IQ as high as possible. That's what I want. I want them IQ high as possible, right? And so how can I get IQ high as possible with the speed necessary to solve the problem, right? With the speed necessary, not just to solve the problem, but to solve the problem so that we can get out of this problem situation as fast as possible. We can get productive, right? And so that's where your ability to be able to be calm and clear and resourceful comes in, where people's anxiety reduces. That means their creativity goes up. That means their IQ goes up, or at least stays up, right? And then you can creatively solve that problem and get out of it. And you can do more of those faster, and solve more problems, which is ultimately what we do in business, is just solving problems as leaders, removing roadblocks for our people to go be the best versions of themselves. And lastly, I will say this, I'll leave you with some reflection questions, as I always do, about this very topic, which is number one, where am I passing pressure instead of translating it? I'll read that again. Where am I passing pressure instead of translating it? Question number two, reflection for you. Have the expectations changed without me clearly naming them? Again, have the expectations changed without me clearly naming them? Think about that as a leader. Have your expectations changed for you and you didn't name them to your team? Come on, don't leave them out there to dry. Number three, where is urgency needed but clarity is missing? Right? Where is urgency needed? Maybe it's in, a production department, but they're unclear on exactly what you're trying to do, right? You may have a 2-week backlog. You need to get it down to 2 days. Do they know that? Do they know that? Right? And last but not least, what would focusing, right, like a laser, look like this week, right? We, if you take light, and if you have light and you allow it to just like spread out and go all over the place, right? Yeah, you may have some heat from the light, but it will have lack of energy. It won't have a lot of energy because it's spread out. But if you take that same light and direct it and zoom it in, that's what I've been told a laser is, right? You have that light and you beam it in, that focus can penetrate steel, concrete, you name it, right? If you get enough light, enough energy to solve a issue, right? To penetrate through. And so your job as a leader is to take all that energy, all that light, and take it from chaos all out here. Yes, it's pressure, but beam it and zoom it straight in, right, to that problem so you can solve that problem as fast as possible, because the environment that you probably live in today is requiring more productivity, more margin, more EBITDA, more revenue, more growth, better products, better client experience, better employee experience than ever before. And your ability to stay calm, cool, and collected and produce clarity when you get pressure as a leader can be arguably one of the most important skills that you have to continue to have the success that you want to have from a productivity standpoint and personal career success. And I believe personal fulfillment as a leader based on the leader you're becoming. So that's what I got. God bless you today. I'm so excited. This is episode 5 of the Leader You're Becoming podcast, where we talked again about creating urgency without creating chaos. I'm Coach T, and so I pray that this was beneficial to you. I know it's beneficial to me as a reminder each day to take the pressure, push chaos. Push. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, take the pressure and push chaos. That's how we go end it. I'm not editing that out either. That's funny. And push out calm, right? Push out clarity at the end of the day. So again, we have a good time here. We love to have a good time and learn and get better as leaders. And that's what this podcast is about. Thank you. If I would love for you to subscribe, right? We got a few subscribers after the last podcast, so excited. Thank you all. If you're listening to this, especially to the end, if this is your first time, welcome. This is you coming back again, well, welcome back. And I trust and believe if you haven't subscribed, you are smart enough to know whether this was valuable for you. And if you wouldn't mind, share it with somebody else that's a leader or somebody who's thinking about leadership, because this is where we talk about it and get better, a little bit better every day in our leadership and our stewardship of our businesses and ultimately of our lives and the people around us. So God bless. Love y'all. Talk to y'all next week. Peace.